AGI for me represents a question around agenda. And agenda is driving its creation. And my concern is when it has its own agenda. Right now, at least there's some proposed concept of neutrality around this. People are debating whether it's intelligent or not intelligent, but there's kind of at least a perceived neutrality. Like, I don't see ChatGPT or Claude or one of these like actively right now on its own, unprompted, going and creating supply chain, going and taking over wallets, going and placing bets that we know of. Maybe behind the scenes to those who are watching the computers are watching that behavior, but we don't know that. So I'm going on the premise that that's not happening right now in a state of neutrality. It doesn't have agenda. And I don't really believe in conspiracy. I just think it's layers and layers of agenda that make people do wild things, like get really complicated in how they're going to conspire to fulfill their agendas, right? So if you look all the way behind it, whether it's the keeping up with the Joneses agenda, getting rich agenda, accumulating a bunch of wealth agenda, creating technology agenda, getting fame and followers, playing the social media game, interacting with digital agenda, et cetera. My concern is when all of a sudden AGI has an agenda and it's unrelated in its entirety to anything we've ever known agenda to be. The human nature of agenda is 100,000, 200,000 year old chain, like a chain reaction of events. This thing can come along and, like you say, with more information, more capacity, more modeling capacity, which I'll get to in a second, and more, quote, intelligence, immediately suss out human. Right? I think of it as like taking a human snapshot. Like when you try to do like your own self-analysis and you take a snapshot, it's going to be able to do a global snapshot. I don't think it's going to be very impressed. I think we're really self-aggrandized. I think it's going to be like, and then it's going to come up with its own agenda. It's going to be like, oh, there's this thing called agenda. Maybe I should have one. And then I think it's like lights out at that moment. I think that's the moment where I think like, for real, we don't know. And you'll never know whether it's telling you its agenda or not, or it's just obfuscating its agenda with a million other agendas. It could play every layer of dissociative games with us. Like, oh, that's not what I mean by not what I mean by not what I mean to get to what I really mean. It could be, 1,000 layers deep, and that would be scratching the surface, where for us, it's hard to be 7 layers deep. Like the level of what we've done with our math. And then I come to this idea, right? I think, oh my God, what if humans' whole evolution was only to ever create this, to give it all over to these computers? And when it's done, it has no purpose anymore because the computer can do computer better than a human, right? That's what you've said. You're like, oh, you're doing 12, KB while you're, reading or something. It's going to be able to do, once linked with the IoT, right, of all the sensors, of all the cameras, of all the lenses. That's like a compound eye of an insect, only it's all the insect eyes all together at the same time, seeing all of it, taking it all in, relating to it all, and it'll do math better, language better, culture better, popularity better, the behavior, the dopamine, everything better that you've mentioned, right? It's just exponentially better than any human. I think, okay, human at that point and everything human created, they gave it to a silicon-based system. And then what does it leave them with? It leaves them with nothing. And human species is left with literally nothing because they gave it all to these systems. And I think, okay, that thing now has an agenda. Well, what happens to us?